the intern at Princeton Integrative Health, and today I'm joined by Dr. Vinny on the What If series. This week's is about what if the natural world could improve your mood. So Dr. Vinny is the co-founder and medical director of Princeton Integrative Health. He has a distinguished career in emergency medicine and family medicine spanning 32 years. But despite the advice of conventional medicine, he suffered from an episode of unstable angina, a life-threatening condition, while he was out for a run. This led him on a quest with the help of his daughter Jenna that led to his discovery of functional and integrative medicine and the creation of Princeton Integrative Health in 2016. His life mission is now to help others benefit from his health challenges and from what he has learned on his journey so that they don't have to suffer what too many suffer: premature disease, disability, and death. His goal is to help everyone have healthy longevity so that they may have an impact in the world and reach their life and legacy goals. So as I said today, we're going to be focusing on the natural world and how that can impact our well-being. So my first question is to Dr. Vinny: how can nature play a role in our health and healing?
Yes, so nature is, the great restorer, if you will. It's easy to lose sight, especially when we live in urban or suburban environments, of how much nature can help us. But people have actually done studies that people who tend to have, who are healing from something, if they're in a room, if they have a view out to a garden or trees, they heal better, more quickly. There's less anxiety and depression versus people who are staring at a brick wall. So I think that just having that view of nature just stimulates different brain chemicals, so that helps our overall system.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. There's studies about nature and plants in hospital rooms, or even just having the view of nature. And it not only does it help in the level of pain that certain patients are suffering from, but also the speed of their recovery. So you mentioned nature as a restorative force, and I feel like it can definitely also be a connecting force. So between people, can you talk a little bit more about the social emotional side of nature?
Yeah, I mean, we love to gather, right? We're humans are social animals. So, oftentimes those things we do, we go to the beach, we go to parks, obviously we go indoors for events, but many of the events, especially when it's summertime, people choose to be outside. And again, I think many of those healing properties of nature, especially if you can kick your shoes off and get grounded with the earth, that has its own special properties, balancing our electromagnetic fields and, renewing our electrical charges. So that's an amazing thing. I love going to the beach and being by the ocean, and it doesn't have to be that I'm going in the ocean. I'll be going to the beach all winter long and walking along the beach just because I feel just so content when I am there. It's makes you want to be active. When you're in a beautiful environment, an environment that you find great beauty and peace in.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's also one of the benefits of nature, is that not only are you connecting with nature itself and the people that you're surrounded with, but also with your own body. And the sea, as you mentioned, actually has positive ions, which are really good for you. And so just the opportunity to be in nature allows for a lot of play, even as adults, and just getting your body moving in general. So definitely very important. But these days we find ourselves ever more technologically bound indoors. How can we kind of break up our schedules? What do you suggest in order to get that dose of nature?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things we can do is just bring nature indoors with us, if you will. People can have plants. They sometimes even little gardens, herb gardens inside. All of that can be helpful. Um, you know, I try to take breaks during the day now where I'll just walk outside the building, walk around a little bit just to, just to get outside, get some fresh air, get into, around the trees and that kind of thing. And I think all that's important. Not only are you connecting with nature, but you're being active, you're getting out of your chair, you're moving. And I think all that is important. So, any activity that you do will be helpful. And if you can, as I said, reconnect with nature, lower those stress levels, lower those cortisol levels, that will magnify the effects of the activity.
Right, right. There's actually this meditation exercise that I came across once that it focuses on the five senses. So you pick a sense and you kind of walk down. So like you could start off with five things that you see, four things that you feel, three things that you hear, and you kind of go down the list. And I feel like that's a really helpful tool to do, especially in nature where there's so much to see and so much to smell and feel. And it doesn't take that much time. And within 5 minutes, you can instantly feel reset.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't have to be in nature for hours upon hours, and most of us don't even have the time to do that. So I think it's smart, as you were saying, to just optimize those little pockets of time, whether it's taking a short walk outside of your building and making sure that you're also not on your phone while you're doing that, that you're looking around the world. So
being present to it is important. You're right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Some people, though, are a little hesitant to go outside, whether it be because they're afraid of, maybe the UV rays or air pollution, or some people, we saw a lot of patients this summer with ticks coming in. So how are some ways to stay safe against those kind of factors?
Yeah, well, that was a kind of a broad range of people. Depends on what you, if it stays safe from ticks, you can do the things like where wearing long pants and boots and long sleeves that'll protect you. You can put tick spray on if you want. Certainly can do that. If you're afraid of, if there's some reason you can't be out in the UV rays, though, for most people who don't have skin cancer and that kind of thing, at least some exposure, 15, 20 minutes of exposure a day to generate some vitamin D would be great. Kind of hard to do as we're getting into the season now. So we do recommend vitamin D supplements for people, keep their vitamin D levels up through the winter. Especially important in this time of COVID and flu, will help make you more resistant to those viruses. But yeah, I mean, you can, if you really don't want to have any of the sun's rays on you, then, wearing long clothing or, using sunscreen, wearing a hat, all of that can be, keep the rays off you for sure. I mean, sometimes you can find places indoors where they might have some nature, or bring it indoors yourself. Have some plants and things indoors that can all be helpful. Doing, as I said, you could have a little herb garden. I mean, people just love that kind of stuff, and tending plants and everything. You have a little herb garden.
And I think you brought up a great point with the vitamin D, and that's one of the great gifts of nature, is that the sun gives us vitamin D. Can you talk a little bit for viewers that might be unfamiliar about what vitamin D does and its importance? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Vitamin D, even though it's called a vitamin, is actually a pro-hormone, meaning the body actually turns it into a hormone, and if it affects like 1,000 different genes, which other vitamins don't do. They are cofactors in metabolic processes, but they don't turn genes on and off like that. So vitamin D, or prohormone D, turns off inflammatory genes. It helps modulate the immune system from becoming too inflamed. It helps modulate the immune system, though, to be more resistant to viruses. So it turns on parts of it and turns off parts of it. It's great for the vascular system. It's important for people for heart health. Obviously, everybody knows vitamin D to keep your bones strong, so it's important there. But it can help even folks with cancer, higher vitamin D levels. They are more likely to have responses to chemotherapy and radiation therapy. And when their vitamin D levels are, when they've studied this, I think they said in women in breast cancer, women who had higher breast cancer levels at the time of diagnosis usually had less aggressive tumors. So again, that's more immune system modulation than anything else. So, it can help people with energy and muscle pains. So it's important. It's important in this day and age to have vitamin D. And again, during the summer, you might be able to generate enough vitamin D being out in the sun, but certainly at this time of the year, it's going to be hard to do that. So we do recommend supplementations for our patients.
Right. And are there any other vitamins or vitamins that the sun or being in nature provides us with? Vitamin D. I mean,
can't think of anything that we're generating from being out in nature in terms of vitamins, but being out in nature increases things like neurotrophic factors that help nerves heal and help to decrease inflammation in the brain and, help with that anxiety and depression. So, not vitamins per se, but peptides and hormones can be generated by being out in nature. So, and again, all good healing stuff, and it doesn't cost anything, for the most part. I mean, maybe you have to pay to go into some park somewhere, but you can usually find free open spaces that you can be out in, and wouldn't cost you a dime except for the gas to get there. Or maybe you ride your bike and it'll be even better.
Exactly. Which brings me on to my next question. So this talk actually coincided, not planned, but with the UN's climate change conference for 2021. And it's the 26th United Nations Climate Change Conference. So, obviously the earth is on fire, there's climate change. And what are some ways that we can show respect to our planet?
Yeah, I mean, there are many different ways, obviously talking about nature, planting trees, maintaining trees, making sure we have the biomass to trap the carbon dioxide. That's one way, trying to cut down on the amount of waste that we produce, using less and less plastic. Things derived from petroleum can be very helpful. Things that break down in nature, feed nature, things, compostable things that's all great stuff. So that we put less and less stress on the planet. And just trying to be, mindful of our carbon footprint, switching over to more fuel efficient cars. Some people decide they're all in on that. They'll get an electric car, really reduce their carbon footprint. Certainly more and more hybrids out there, more and more choices of fully electric cars. So I think that, that's some of the ways. And, as I mentioned, instead of driving your car to work, if you have the opportunity, ride a bike, you're getting double the benefit there. You're getting activity and you're getting, you're reducing the carbon footprint. So something else to think about for sure.
And I think a lot of times whenever we do something that's good for our health, it's also good for the planet and vice versa. So like, as you said, taking a ride with a bike instead of with a car, or if you do it with a car, do it with a fuel efficient car. Or even if you think about eating seasonally or locally, you driving to a farm that's near you and picking those ingredients instead of those ingredients being shipped across the country and then to a big supermarket where you go and you use a plastic for it. And meanwhile, you're getting food that's that kind of synchronizes with what your body needs at the certain point in the season. For example, as winter's coming, citrus fruits are really are being harvested, and those are high in vitamin C, which is obviously important for your immune health. So it's interesting to see the synchronicities, and there, when we do something that's good for the planet, it's oftentimes good for our own health as well. Is there anything else that you'd like to add on how the natural world can improve our well-being?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's wisdom in nature, healing in nature. And I think if we go out there and be quiet and be present to it, that our bodies feel that. I think that's why we, you know, feel more content, more peaceful when we're out in nature versus being in, man-made artificial environment. So yeah. So again, and it doesn't cost you anything to do that. So
No. Well, thank you for joining us today, Dr. Vinny. And to all our viewers, I hope that you take this as a sign that to go outside maybe for a little bit today and soak up the sun for just a little bit and breathe the fresh air and see the beautiful colors of the trees. We'll be here next week with our new episode, which will be What If You Could Prevent or Reverse the Effects of Alzheimer's Disease? Thank you, everyone. And thank you, Dr. Vinny.
thank you, Kayla.
Bye.
Bye.